read for me?
What?
You will?
What'd you say? To read.
What are you looking for? I'll read one.
What do you read out of?
You can pick, okay.
Chapter 3.
Sure.
First 3 paragraphs.
Why not?
That's just what I just said that.
I'll let you know when to start. Just the first 2 paragraphs of this chapter. That full house.
Good to see that.
Nothing else to do.
Why not come to a meeting, you know?
Alright, everybody. My name's Austin. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Austin.
Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, but then they solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. We do not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor impose any causes. And our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. This is H&I. H&I stands for hospitals and institutions. Basically, we bring meetings into places where people can't get out to them. We're going to start with a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. If you don't know it, it's right up there. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Best somebody to read.
Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he thinks he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people are presently made to We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by stateless control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, not better.
Thanks for reading.
Thank you. Annabeth and I read from the promises.
Dave, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Dave.
Promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. These extravagant promises, we think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Dave. So real quick, we're going to do a go-around so we can get everybody's names, starting on the left.
I'm Tyler. I'm an alcoholic.
Tyler.
Dave, alcoholic.
Dave.
One alcoholic.
One. It's up to you. Ashton.
Beth.
Beth.
Ivan, addict.
Ivan.
So, drug addict, too. Sal.
Jeff, addict.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Louis, addict.
Louis.
I'm David. I'm out.
Hey, David.
Sarah Paddock.
Sam.
Becky Paddock.
Becky.
Cody, still an alcoholic.
Cody.
My name's Austin. I'm an alcoholic. Just
Austin.
real quick, so you guys all know, I just got sober through AA. So I brought my friend Cody here. It's a really loose format. Basically, he's gonna share some experience, strength, and hope with you guys. Then we're gonna leave it up to you to share or ask any of us for any questions you have. I got to know him for the last, 4 or 5 months. We have the same sponsor. And he's just somebody that I seen that wanted to dive in this thing and like asked for help and started putting in the work. He actually went through this exact building and he wanted to kind of give back, so I managed to get him down here, so I'm excited to hear what he has to say. So
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. So my name's Cody. Definitely an addict and an alcoholic, like how he said, not different than anybody else. We all suffer from this thing called addiction that they call substance abuse disorder. And it's not hard to overcome. And I'm going to share with you guys kind of like what it was like for me out there. I'm going to try and touch a little bit on some of the war stories, but I think we can all agree that it gets bad out there, or else we wouldn't be sitting in these seats right now. So I guess I'll touch a little bit on like how I grew up and like how I came to my addiction, because really the way addiction works when you break it down is it's in everybody. It just depends on how much you feed into it. If you eat too many cookies, you're going to get diabetes. If you do too much of anything, it's just not going to be good. So I grew up in Michigan. That's where I'm from. I came from a good home, from I guess a more privileged home than most. My stepdad made a lot of money and kind of gave us everything we ever wanted, but it was more like, it was kind of like I missed out on having a father, because my biological father was a drug dealer growing up. So I guess from a young age I kind of saw the lifestyle but didn't put it together that that's what he was doing to make his money and all that. And so he wasn't really much in my life, and he ended up going to Mexico for a few years, running from the FBI, and I never knew why, because I was only like 8 or 9, maybe 10. And then my stepdad and my mom always tried to keep me away from my real dad because they know he was toxic. But my stepdad was the type to kind of like buy your love, I guess. He'd rather spend his money and buy you an Xbox, a phone, and say, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. So I guess I grew up without a father and always trying to seek his approval, and that kind of drove me into drugs as well, because he was pretty strict on me most of the time, but it was out of love. My mom, she grew up with an addict and alcoholic parents who are still in their addiction today, and she kind of, when she was 17, had me and totally just drove away from drugs, never touched them again. She was only like a typical pot smoker, maybe tried coke once or twice. But anyways, so she has a deep hatred for drugs, so she tried everything she could once she saw me slipping down to that slope. And like anything, it's progressive, this disease is. So I started like 7th grade, drinking a little bit with my friends, having fun. Then I dove into the marijuana scene when I was in 8th grade. And it was so typical too, because my friend, I knew he smoked weed every day. He had a bunch of weed on him all the time. His grandparents grew it and stuff. And I never thought anything of it. It was just kind of like I tried drinking once before. I had the euphoric feel, but I didn't really have the desire to do it again, kind of. And then one day my friend just said, hey, would you want to smoke a joint after school? And I'm like, sure, why not? You know, it's being young, just experimenting. So I tried it, didn't really get anything from it. So it was the next year, high school, but it really changed everything for me. I guess I was going through a lot at home with my stepdad grounding me all the time and just like being strict and just not being able to live up to the standard that he thought I wanted to be or what I wanted to be. So I started diving into pills, trying them out, and just experimenting with a lot of things, not really knowing the long-term effects of what I was doing to myself. And I got rebellious at that point. Now I'm getting caught doing more bad things that my parents are pretty strict about. Now I'm getting deeper and deeper into the addiction, and now I'm getting the depression. I'm getting other things that are just going into that downward cycle. And I think it was 10th grade is when I started seeing my biological father again. And me and him have made up now. He's been sober for a year and a half, which is great. But I mean, through the 12 steps, we've both made amends to each other. But when I was 14, I think he wanted to make up for lost time, and he wanted to find a way to bond with me, because we didn't really have any bonding before then or after. And I never wanted to go over to hang out with his house or anything, and due to that, I think is what drove him to make this next decision I'm about to tell you, is he decided to smoke crack with me at 14. And at that young of an age, your brain's not really developed, and it messes a lot of things up. So that really kind of kickstarted my addiction, but I don't blame it on him because I always have a choice. And that's when it got really bad really fast, was after that. And let's see, now it's like 10th grade, 11th grade, I'm falling into the wrong crowd. Started doing criminal activity to pay for my addiction because now I'm smoking crack. I'm any drug other than the sun. I guess you could say I was a dumpster addict. It didn't matter what it was. If it was going to take me out of myself and my depression and anything, I was going to do it. It was kind of like if someone had 2 pills and said this one might kill you, but it might also give you the best high of your life, I'm taking it. You know, that's just who I was. And so it took about till about age 17, I decided to move out of my parents' house because by the time I was 17, I had accumulated 2 felonies, 16 misdemeanors, on my way to jail almost. Been on probation since I was 14 because of possession of marijuanas and violations, dropping dirty, all that whole thing. And I guess I just didn't care enough to get out of it. And so when I was 17, I decided to move out of my mom's house because she said I was going to be grounded because I got another shoplifting charge. And I said, well, that's bullshit, I'm moving out. So I moved in with my aunt, which was in a big city, but it was a drug city, away from my hometown, only like an hour away. And right away, got into drugs again, found the wrong crowd, cocaine, drinking all the time. Was supposed to be going to school online, but never did, just said screw it. And that lasted about a month, and my aunt's kind of like my mom, like doesn't like drugs because she saw what her brother went through, which is my father. And she found a tin of spice in my room, and she thought it was weed, and she was so convinced it was weed, it was ridiculous. I was like, no, that's spice, I bought it from the store. And she's like, no, it's weed, I know what it smells like, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, she was going to kick me out and have me go back and move in with my mom. And I said, no, I'm not doing that, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to call my dad. And at this point, I haven't talked to him maybe a year or 2. And when he picked me up, he was already high. He was on meth. Never seen him on meth before, but due to our crack in the past, it wasn't a surprise. And so right away, we got into crack together again, meth. He was going through a hard time again in his life. His wife of 14 years left him and took the kids, and she was an illegal immigrant at the time, so he had no idea where she was. He was kind of in just a bad place. We ended up having to sell the house he was living at, which was like a 3-story house, a lot of furniture that was left, and we had a big garage sale, and we just sold everything, made like $2,000. But by the time we were actually ready to move into our next place, which was going to be a trailer, just me and him, we pretty much had like $300, $400 or something because we spent all the money on drugs, and that got bad. So then now we're living in our own little trailer, and crack's still a thing. Now we're cooking meth at the house, and it's just getting bad. And so he has me breaking into storage units, houses. He would drop me off in front of houses and tell me to knock on the door, and if someone answers, just tell them you need directions somewhere, or if they don't answer, try and walk in and steal TV or something. So we did that for a good maybe 3-4 months, just breaking and enterings and stealing and just criminal activity, and it caught up with us because he was selling the local stuff at the pawn shop. And the detective came to our house, and we just got done cooking meth for 3 days, and we have everything on the counter, but we lived out in the country. So we freaked out, and we talked to him, but my dad, being the criminal he is with the background and stuff, he already had a pre-worked up story that I would take the blame for it and just get like 6 months in jail maybe because he would go to prison. So I went through the whole court system, maybe 6 months of going to see my lawyers and lying to him, saying, it was all me, he had nothing to do with it, this and that. And then I guess my mom, she still wanted me to succeed. She still wanted to see me do the right thing, and she knew my dad had something to do with it, even though he wouldn't admit it, and I wouldn't admit it. She just knew. I eventually decided, she said, if you ever want to move back in with me and get your life together, this isn't the life to live. If you want to move back in, I'll help you. And I said, okay. So I let that sit for a couple weeks, and I decided what I was doing was terrible. My life is going nowhere. This isn't good. And so I decided to move back in with my mother. At this time, I'm going to be a senior in high school, and I hadn't gone to school the year before, but now I'm going to be a senior at my old high school, and this high school has been sick of me since like 9th grade, because I was selling pot at school, doing all kinds of just bad stuff, and they're like, we'll let you back in, but if there's any problems, you're going to be expelled. I said, all right. So my mom fought to get me back in there. I made it through the first 3 months of the first trimester, and I ended up getting expelled because I was getting into now what was called Corseed and cough and cold, if anyone's familiar. So yeah, so I started tripping on that a lot. I had literally 4 overdoses in maybe the first year of doing it because I am an addict, so more is always better, and I'm just gonna overdo anything I do. So I was taking them at school one time, and my art teacher was an asshole to me, and he was just one of them stuck-up pricks, because I had tattoos in high school more than anybody there. I had maybe like 5 or 6 on my arms, and he just had that like automatic association with just terrible kids. Like, he just didn't want anything to do with me, so he was an asshole to me every day. So I was high on those pills, and I decided to throw a bunch of paint at him when he wasn't looking. We were paint. Every time we walked by, I'd splatter paint on him, and they ended up someone told on me, some freshman kid told on me, and I ended up having to do a police report. I admitted to it, and I got expelled. And then he also pressed charges on me for $100, which was dumb. But anyways, so I get expelled. My mom's still trying with me. I'm on probation still for this whole criminal thing with my dad. Ended up getting 2 years probation, bunch of fines, 480 hours community service, this and that, just all this stuff. And so I'm on probation, dropping dirty. So they had me go to an adult ed program, which was through my school, but it was for troubled kids and people that get expelled, or if you're over 18, you need to get your diploma or GED, they'll let you come back. So I was doing that, and I ended up going to rehab for my first time. It was like 2 hours away from my hometown, and it was good. It was supposed to be a 1-month program, but I only did 2 weeks, and they ended up discharging me because I said I was doing really well, this and that. And my mom comes and picks me up, and I finished and get my diploma, and now I'm 17 and just turned 18. So up north, it's really typical for factory to work in a factory. So I got my first factory job, did pretty well for a while. But like anything else, if I'm using, everything's in my life is going to become unmanageable and fall apart. So that happened. I ended up going to jail for the first time, dropping dirty. And throughout all this, I'm still trying to like maintain everything else in my life, relationships with girlfriends, relationships with family, just trying to hold it together, as we do as addicts. We're always trying to hold it together and make it look good from the outside, but on the inside we're deteriorating and killing ourselves. And so, first time in rehab and then go to jail. Let's fast forward a little bit. By the time I was 19, no, I was 20, I started using needles, and that was pretty much a game changer for me, from going from the crack to that, and that's when I started shooting meth a lot. Went to rehab through Palm when I was 19, and that was my first time out of a state-ran rehab, so it was kind of like really great. Like, I thought I was on vacation. I thought this was awesome. Only did a month, and then thought I was healed, so I'm going back home. Go back home, and it wasn't 2 weeks later, I'm using drugs again and doing the whole thing. I'm on probation still, and go to jail again. Throughout this whole period, from the time I started going to jail at 17 until now I'm 23, but I stopped going to jail a year ago. I ended up doing like 2.5 years in jails, and then I think that's including rehabs, because then I went to state-funded rehab for 90 days, and every time I get out of rehab, my mentality is I'm never doing drugs again. I'm going to do what I need to do. And the whole thing was, every time I was in rehab, they would be telling me about these steps, higher power, sponsorship, this and that. And that just seemed like too much work for me. I don't want to do any of that. Like, I'm just going to not use drugs, and I'm just going to go get a job and, go to the beach on the weekends, get a good girlfriend, and that's going to be my life. And it never worked. I found that I was just filling a spiritual void within myself with these materialistic objects, with girlfriends, with drugs, with anything, because like I said earlier, as addicts, we just want to feel better. We cling to drugs because they're just terrible. They're really easy to get into, and you can get addicted to anything, relationships, codependency, anything that's going to make you feel better, we can cling to. And my thing was drugs mostly, but I was clinging to relationships that were toxic. I was clinging to anything I could, just trying to fill that void. And my second time through Palm was good, but at the same time mentality, I just wanted to go home, didn't want to do all the work. Maybe this time I did to get a sponsor, started going to AA, but didn't want to work a program. That seemed like too much work. Or I didn't have any hopes in it, just thought a program was just going to be dumb, it's not going to work for me, I'm different, that kind of thing. And I think this time, I'm trying to figure where I am about my timeline. I think I'm 20. About 21 is when I started to get more serious about the disease and understanding it more and more through all the times I went to rehab. Because in total, I've been to rehab 9 times. I was going to AA meetings in jail, because when we get desperate enough is when we want to ask for help, and that's when we get that mentality of let's change. But we get 30 days into rehab, we get out, and then we feel great, and then that gets, usually it's like a pink cloud is what they call it, and it's dangerous to get into that. But anyway, I got into needles and selling meth really bad this past time. That was my last run. I got out of here, went home, got my job back, and I was doing really well. but I just slipped right back into it, and this run was really bad, I guess. I was shooting up so much meth that I ended up in a hospital bed after 3 months, and I had bleeding ulcers on my stomach, had bleeding ulcers on my throat. I had a hole in my large intestine that I was internally bleeding from, and it was coming out of my fingers and it was just trying to push its way out. Like, I was doing so much of it, and I was just literally on my deathbed. My family even said, like, this is the worst we've ever seen you. And I had to get that bad. And even when I was that bad in the hospital, I had to stay for a whole week just so they could keep me on the medicine that was going to my veins to be able to repair my organs, or else I would have just, if I walked out of there, I would have died. And that's how sick I was, because I knew something was wrong the way I was feeling, and I knew I needed to go to the hospital, but I was also trying to maintain a full-time job, maintain my addiction, and everything else. So I didn't want to go to the hospital, but I knew I needed to, and I was in a lot of internal pain. I could feel it. So what I did is I got my needle ready, because I was going to go to work after I left the hospital. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. So when I got in there, I said, I don't feel right. I've been having blood coming out of my orifices and this and that. So they took a sample from me, and they said, yeah, you're definitely internally bleeding. We need to start doing some tests. Whatever machines they put you on, they need to do all this blood work and tests. And I was like, all right, well, can I come back later? Like, I got to go to work. And, like, I didn't really care about the work. I just really wanted to go use that needle that I had ready in the car. And they're like, if you walk out of here, like, you could die in 2 hours, you could die in a day, we don't know, like, we need to get you on the stuff, we need to start fixing this. And I was like, yeah, but if I don't feel right, like, I'll come back in, like how I came in just now. He's like, you're lucky you're in here right now, not dead, like, you could die any second, you understand that? I'm like, hold on, let me call my mom, because that's, like, the only person I would listen to ever is my mother, because she's, like, always been trying to keep me sober, so I knew her judgment was going to be the best. And so I gave her a call, and I told her what was going on. And she's like, you keep your ass there in the hospital, I'll be there in a couple hours, because I lived pretty far at this time. And so I did. I didn't want to, but I did. And even then, I still had meth in my sock. I had a baggie of it, like $200 worth maybe. And so I started hooking me up on the machines, started doing my intake process for the hospital. And every time the nurses walk out of the room, I gotta use the bathroom, so I walk with my little thing in my arm, and I go in the bathroom and do another line of meth, because I wanted to get it all gone. I wanted to use it all, because I knew this was probably going to be it before I either die or I'm going to go back into treatment. So I wanted to make sure I got all the meth gone, how we are as addicts. And I was just really upset that I couldn't use that needle. But stayed there for a whole week, and then knew I was going to go to rehab. I didn't want to. I just wanted to leave and say I'm going to keep my job, and I'm just going to not use drugs again. But my family convinced me that I can't do this on my own, because even then the way meth works is neurological. The withdrawal was, and in the hospital bed, like, I would sleep for 3 hours and literally just flinch so hard that my whole body would just go crazy, because it's the way the neural paths work. And so I stayed there for a week, ended up coming back down here to Palm, and at this point I guess it was the worst relapse I had and the worst run and the worst I had ever been. That I guess that's how desperate I had to get, and to be able to see that I want to change, I guess, because I heard something really good in a meeting yesterday this lady said, and it's this program isn't for people who need it, and it's not for people who want it. It's just for those who do it, because that's what changed it for me. Is literally, I didn't really care to want, at first I didn't really want the sobriety. Like, I wanted the benefits of being sober for a long time and having the car, having the girlfriend, having the house, and having a good job and all those things, but they're not. That's the false sense of reality we get, is we think we can manage all those things in our addiction and have all those things, but at some point it's going to fall apart. And that's the part of the insanity, is that we feed into it, and that we think we can, but that's just you're going to keep doing it over and over until you realize that that's not possible. And so what she said is that it's not for who want it, who need it, it's for who does it. And that's what changed everything for me. Is I got down here and I was like, you know what, I really want to get better. I've been to rehab enough times. Like, I know what I need to do to stay sober. Not fully, no, but I know the right steps I need to take to begin this. Because I wasn't able to stay sober for 45 days. I'd get out of rehab and get home for 2 weeks to a month. I'm using drugs again. It doesn't matter if I'm using weed or if I'm using alcohol, doing needles right away, pills. It doesn't matter. I'm always putting something back in my body after going home. And so I knew going home was going to be bad. So before I got on the airplane, my mom told me, she said, we're not going to let you come home for a year. And I was going to kick and scream with her, and I was like, you know what, that sounds good. Like, I'm not going to come home. Let's keep me there for a year. Let's do this. Let's try it. So I did. And she's like, look at it as a good experience, as like that whole new life you're going to start, this and that. But so I did. came into it with an open mind, ready to take all the suggestions that I heard in the past that I didn't want to do, because the way I want to do my recovery was I'll do this but not that, I'll do that not this, throw that out the window, but I'll definitely do this, I'm going to only do a little bit of this. That's just the way I wanted to do recovery. And until I took all the suggestions and did everything that the people that were doing it that was working for, until I took all those and did them, that's when everything changed for me, to where I was actually able to stay sober for more than 45 days. And I'm not saying that steps are the only way, but that is what helped me. If you're anything like me, that's definitely what helped me, was the steps. And a lot of people get turned off by the steps, but it's really, there's 12-step programs out there for people that eat too much. There's 12-step programs for depression, for all kinds of things, and it's not really just not focused just on addicts. I mean, anybody in this world can get something out of a 12-step program, because what it does, it just has you focus on your character defects, cleans your side of the street for the people you've hurt, and just to keep moving forward every day with a clean slate and finding a higher power to lean on. And I mean, as you can see, I got the Om symbol tattooed on this side, and then I got a satanic symbol on this side. And it's because I've researched both sides of the story, and it doesn't matter what you go for or what you believe in, as long as you have something that you know that you can't control this disease, and that there's something greater than you that you can lean on. And so I came down here, went through the detox, went to Palm Partners. Well, this time I actually went to G&G. The times two before that I went to Palm. This time they sent me to G&G, which was a cool experience. I get out of there, I'm ready to go to halfway. But even before then, I was 28 days in. I had 2 more days, and I was like, Mom, I'm coming home. Like, I got this. I'm coming home again. I'm gonna get a job. Like, everything's gonna be good. She's like, Cody, you're not coming home. I'm not paying for your plane ticket. I'm like, what? And then fighting around. I'm like, why? She's like, we said you're gonna stay there for a year. I'm like, no, this is bullcrap, blah, blah, blah. But then after talking to like my sponsors, because I had a sponsor even in rehab, some people I met linked it up with the previous times I was down here. And so he's like, no, dude, stay down here. You've proven in the past that going home is not going to be good for you. And that's when I was like, all right, you're right. Like, all right, so cool. I'm going to go to halfway. So I went here in Delray to this halfway called Royal, which was really good. I mean, it was so strict that it was definitely needed for me, the type of act I was. Because I mean, if you're anything like me, I was the type that drugs were more important than brushing my teeth, or taking showers regularly, or buying clothes when I need it, or even food. I would literally starve myself for 5-6 days. I get my paycheck, all of it's on drugs, and then maybe $10 I'll go buy a sandwich one time. This is how bad it was. I didn't care. So they definitely gave me good accountability there. It was very strict. Did that for 9 weeks. Did their IOP, and started working the steps immediately, because someone in the past told me that, dude, because in the past I had a sponsor that said, I want you to be 3 months sober before we do steps. And I was like, okay. So I didn't even make it 45 days. I'm not even calling him anymore, and I'm already relapsed. And so someone else told me that happened to him, and he had the same experience with someone that didn't want to do the steps until he had a certain amount of clean time. But he's like, there's some addicts out there that need to start working the steps right away. And so that's what I did, right when I got there. And I started feeling good, not immediately, but I kind of went through the motions, because I knew that you had to be patient with this thing. And so I felt like I was just going through the motions. I didn't think it was working for me. I thought this was going to be different, but I just kept doing it. And that's what that whole saying I said is for those who just do it. And I just kept doing it. Going to these meetings that I was required to go to. Cleaning up after myself at night and making sure my dishes are done. Taking the garbage out at nighttime. Taking a shower every day. Calling my sponsor when I needed to. And doing all those things that I never wanted to do before, but I was just doing them in hopes that it would get better. And slowly but surely it did get better, and I had really good times getting sober this time. It's been a really crazy experience, and the people I've met and everything like that, it's just been amazing. And like I said, the only thing that changed it for me was just taking all the suggestions, not going home, staying down here, and doing the next right thing. I never really had a higher power. I knew something was out there, but I didn't know what to believe in. So really, I just came to, I've researched the Satanic Bible, I've researched the Buddhist Bible, I've researched the Quran, all kinds of different religions, and I just wanted to get a good idea of what all of them actually talk about. And so basically, I became, through the AA and everything, I just got kind of like my own spiritual experience through the steps, and just like what I think God is, or what that God is to me. Because I feel like without human words, if we weren't able to talk, we'd all feel that spiritual presence out there. We don't know what it is, but we all decide what we want to call it, but we all feel it. So it's about your own spiritual journey through life and getting sober. So that's what it was like for me. Now I've accumulated, I think it'll be like 7 months and 10 days or something, but that doesn't mean anything, because it's just a number. I mean, just like you guys, I could just relapse tomorrow. I could relapse when I come out of here, but it's about what we do every day to not relapse. It's we know how to relapse. We've done that many times. Now, staying sober is the hard part, and every day it's a new experience because I've never made it this long in sobriety, so every day is new, and I never knew how good it could get. Like, in the past, I was okay with being a factory worker for the rest of my life, and we had a teacher in high school, and I remember this, it stuck with me all the way till now, is what he said was, you know, this world's always going to need factory workers, we're always going to need people to work at McDonald's, and we're always going to need people to do these small paying jobs. But he's like, my point is, don't be that person. So basically what he was saying is, get an education, don't cut yourself short, keep moving forward, have big dreams, and don't give up on them, and be the all you can be. And that, I mean, it makes sense to me now, but in the past when I was in my addiction, I didn't care. I would just work a factory job for the rest of my life, get high, and if I die, I mean, that's whatever. I didn't really care about myself. I had no self-worth. And today, I'm doing volunteer work at animal hospitals and animal places because what my dream is to work in veterinary hospitals and maybe be the actual title of vet. And I have a really strong connection with animals, and it just brings me the greatest joy. And also being in recovery and helping other addicts and stuff is another, because that's be like another area I want to go into. But I guess I talked to a wildlife recruiter, and I'll be going to college in a couple months, and that's something I never thought I could do. I mean, I was even told myself that many times. I was like, I'm not going to go to college. I'm not that type. I'm not cut out for it. Like, I'll figure something out. I'll work in a factory, or I just will live on minimum wage my whole life. I was cutting myself short because I didn't believe in myself. But now, like, through financial aid and all these government programs that help you and just being sober, anything is possible. You can do anything you want to do. Just have those dreams, have short-term goals, long-term goals, and if you fight for those goals every single day and just hopes, it will get better, and it does get better. And that's just through my experience. I'm sure it's different for everybody in some types of ways, but all in all, if you're sober and you have goals, you can reach those goals. Nothing's too high. It doesn't matter. As long as you don't want to grow wings and fly. I mean, anything's possible. And that's pretty much my story.
That was beautiful.
Alright, like I said, guys, this is a really relaxed format. We got like a half hour. If anybody has any questions for any of us about AA or recovery in South Florida, or if anybody just wants to share something on their heart, mind, or soul, feel free. Go ahead, sir.
Warren, alcoholic.
Warren.
I really like what the man was saying over there. I recently just relapsed. I had over a year clean, and my blessings came quickly. So it gave me a false sense of security that I had it under control. And I went on a drinking spree about a month ago. That I knew I was going to lose everything. I mean, I drunk for over 20 years. I lost relationships with my children. I lost a marriage. I lost homes, vehicles. My drinking was totally out of control. I mean, I never got into any of the trouble or anything, but I've lost stuff that I've worked hard for. And being that, how you were just saying how you tried over and over and over and over again, doesn't make me feel bad about my relapse this time. This is the second time in treatment. My blessings, like I said, when I was sober, everything was going great. I mean, I started at school, kids were coming around again. My ex-wife, our relationship got cool. We was able to communicate, I was thinking straight, holding down a job. I stopped working my program. I was still going to meetings, but I was just there. This time around, especially after this is my first meeting back, so I really appreciate how you was honest enough to say it's not how you work the program or just showing up is what you do with it. And I think that was something I was missing, and I appreciate that. That really put some thought in my mind and made me a little stronger just now. So thank you.
Awesome, man. That's great.
Johnny alcoholic.
Donnie.
Donnie.
relapsed after 8 years, and it's not my first one, but I really think that's why they call it recovery. It just never ends. It's something that's always in your head, and it's something we'll always have to deal with and play with. So thank you for that.
That's what they say is we're never healed, you know. That's something we got to work at every day. As soon as we have a mentality of I got this, or I'm healed, or I can go back out one more time, that's the insanity trying to play back into us. And
Every time you go back out, it gets worse.
yeah, and then every relapse is different. I mean, I've had relapses where I've successfully smoked weed for a year, and that was my recovery program at the time. Because I wasn't putting needles on my arm, but it always led back to that. Because I mean, then I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I started losing my spiritual principles. Started lying, cheating, and stealing again, and then slowly it's just that it makes that ball roll again. We think we can drink and drug like other people, but we've pretty much lost that, you know. It's just like I said, addiction is progressive. So as much as we feed into it, my girlfriend right now, she's not in recovery because she's not has the addict ability in her. She just hasn't played into it enough. I keep telling her because she's prescribed Klonopin for really bad anxiety. She literally has anxiety attacks. So she'll take one. She's like, I want to take another one. I said, don't do it. I was like, you don't need to over medicate yourself. I was like, that's how addiction works. She's like, yeah, but I'm not an addict. I'm like, doesn't matter. You have it in your blood. Her dad died of an overdose when she was 14. So I try and tell her that it doesn't matter as long as if you keep playing into it. It's just it will get worse. It is progressive.
Yeah, my dad died of an overdose too. That's what made me start shooting up too.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I'm Jeff. I'm an addict. This is my first time in rehab or recovery. I seeked it because I just woke up Friday morning and was sick of craving every day. I was sick of not having the motivation to wake up and actually just get out of bed. It, take 30 minutes or roll around, and you're just itchy, throwing up. I just couldn't take it anymore, so I finally looked for help. I started looking, I started out really bad with alcohol, and then started doing drugs, and that was at 16. I continued to do heroin all the way up till I was 23 when my sister passed away. And at 23 when she passed away, that's when I started using needles. And then as soon as I started using needles, I realized that I was going nowhere. I was going to be dead like her, or I was going to be in jail, or something worse. So I got hope, and I hope it works.
Thanks.
Oh yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Let's hear your war story.
My war story?
Give us a war story.
We're not here to tell war stories.
Well, give us a little bit of it. Come on. What do you-
Ask a question. What do you want to know?
How old were you when you
I'll give you a short little sum. So I'm from a small town in Indiana, a couple hours from Chicago. 23 years old right now. I got just about 20 months sober, so a little over a year and a half. I started using drugs when I was like 10 years old. I was prescribed ADHD medication. See, my parents thought something was wrong with me. Because I wouldn't listen, I couldn't sit still. I was just a wreck. What they didn't know is I was sexually molested when I was a kid, and they thought I was just. The doctor said I was ADHD, so they gave me these pills. Well, I didn't like these pills, but they made me take them. And then when I got a little older, I found out other people really did like them, and I didn't want them. And so that's when the games started happening. You know what I mean? I started drinking and smoking, selling my pills. By 15, I'm doing everything except for hard drugs. By 16, I'm shooting up heroin. By 17, I'm cooking meth. First time I was arrested, I was 12. Last time I was arrested, I was 20. You know, I've been in and out of institutions. But I never tried to get sober. Never. I didn't think that drugs and alcohol were my problem. I thought my hometown was my problem. I thought my parents were my problem. I thought my brother that molested me was my problem. I thought the fact that there was no good jobs was my problem. I thought that I couldn't afford school was my problem. I never wanted to think that I was my problem. And then, you know, it came to a certain point where, like, I couldn't, I mean, clearly, like, I was the only problem. And there's no way to deny it. Basically, I didn't even try to get sober, man. Through all this shit, I ended up catching a 3-year prison sentence and ran from the cops, fled down here to Florida. I manipulated this chick into getting me a plane ticket to a rehab for 30 days so I could run from a prison sentence. I went to the rehab for 30 days after, well, I did like a detox and then the rehab and then the IOP and the halfway. I lived in a halfway house for like 10 months. Got a sponsor, worked the 12 steps, started sponsoring other guys, go to meetings, started working, paying my bills, and dude, things got better. That prison sentence I ran from, I no longer even have a warrant. I just got off probation 3 days ago, actually. Been on probation since I was 15 years old. I just got off probation 3 days ago. That's like 8 years. That's fucking crazy. I couldn't do that. Something else had to do that. I don't know how to live. You know, this program, like you said, it's not for people who want it or who need it. You can want it all day, or you can. I mean, I probably needed it before I even knew what drugs were. But I did it. You know, I have one white chip. God willing, like I don't have to be in that seat again. I could be in that seat tomorrow if I don't do this on a daily basis. You know, like you said, there's probably, I mean, you might be able to figure out another way to get sober and stay sober, but like, I didn't want to sit there and try to figure it out. I seen these other people that had a good life. I was fucking miserable, and they said, come follow us, do what we do. We'll be here on your bad days for you. And I said, okay, what do I got to lose? Came down here with $200 and a bag of clothes in a 3-year prison sentence. I didn't have shit to lose. And then, dude, it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, it started, you know, fucking, I had to have the halfway house owner buy me socks and underwear and food when I got here. And then I started walking to work. I got a job being a dishwasher, and then ended up getting a job driving a forklift, and then ended up getting a job working in treatment. Now I got rid of these warrants and I gotta go back to school in the next year. I got a girlfriend who like actually wants to co-sign. Her and her dad want me to co-sign and buy a house with them so I can fix it and sell it because I'm construction certified. I didn't even have anybody that would trust me with $20, you know what I mean? And, like, they want to like co-sign a house with me. I got my family, I haven't seen them in 2 years. They're gonna come down here at the end of the month for a week. And that's a blessing, man. I'm actually able to be a brother and a son and a friend and an employee and a boyfriend and like all these things, like alcoholism, like he said, like it's not about like the drugs or the alcohol, like that's just like what I tried to use. It's like a temporary solution to a permanent problem. You ever seen those like kids toys, like with the triangle where you put it in the triangle, and the circle you put it in the circle and all that shit? Yeah. So imagine an alcoholic, you know, we got this circle and the triangle, you know, that's like blowjobs. We're shoving that down the circle and it feels good for a little bit, but eventually I stop sucking my dick. And then I got heroin, that's the rectangle, you know. That feels like most of the circle and I'm good for a little while, but eventually I can't afford it. You know, like spiritual principles, God, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It doesn't have to be God. If you don't like that word, that's cool. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that, like, I don't know how to live life. And all these people didn't know how to live life either. And now, like, they have good lives. So, like, I follow them. I just believed, like, just this much that it might work. And I allow them to help me put the circle where the circle goes. And, you know, that circle can fall out any day. I could be there tomorrow, just like you were here. I could be in that seat tomorrow. That's why it's a day-to-day program, because this program teaches us how to hold that circle into place, how to actually like care about other people, how to actually have real relationships, how to actually realize that we don't need to like shoot some dope because our friend died. Like it's not gonna make it any better. You know what I mean? Like we realize that there are other solutions to this problem we have, and like our best idea is every time I do things my way, I end up in handcuffs. So I just stuck around long enough. Because I didn't believe it would work. I stuck around long enough for it to work, and now that it started working, like, I have to, like, show other people that it really worked. or else I'll lose it. And I mean, that's a very short spiel of like where I came from. If you have any other questions for me, feel free to ask.
So, are you nervous that having your family come, that bringing back things that could trigger you to use again? Because you know you said you went
Time
through
out.
all that.
Triggers. I hate the fucking word triggers.
Okay, I don't know what
No,
other
you're cool.
word to use it.
This is just like for me to share some of my experience. Like my trigger every day is like waking up. I wake
Okay.
up
Yeah,
with this
right.
disease every day.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if I see somebody that fucked my sister, or I see somebody that's shooting dope, or I see
Are
somebody.
you afraid that you're gonna be tempted to use again because, you know, you've got these people and these things coming back into your life?
Today?
Mom said you're like your own worst enemy. You can make your own choices, so you can choose not to shoot dope. You know, there's better things to do. She said you're your own worst enemy.
These outside things, you know, they show up. They happen. Like, I'm scared that. I mean, there's some fear involved, like that my family's coming down because I haven't seen them in 2 years. But I'm not even worried about getting high. I'm worried about, are they gonna believe that I'm not high? Are they gonna actually want to continue to have a relationship with me? Am I gonna be able to actually, like, is my mom actually gonna let my 3-year-old brother like be with me when she's not around? Am I ever gonna actually be able to finish school so my sister believes that she can go to college too? Like, I'm not, like, at a certain point, like, this program like shows you that you don't have to do drugs, you don't have to do alcohol. Like, eventually it'll help you stop. At a certain point, like, this isn't even about drugs and alcohol for anymore. This is about becoming a better person and like helping other people see that they don't have to do drugs and alcohol either.
It seems like it sounds like it's being more worried about what other people think than what you're actually doing.
What do you mean?
What you're saying, you know, you're worried that they'll think you're high or that they'll think you're doing something with your brother or they'll think
Yeah.
you're. But what about you know, just showing them that you're doing that you can do that, you know, that what you've done so far instead of
What
you know,
about it?
and
That's what I'm saying. Like, eventually, like, I'll have like actual like other things for where like my fears aren't so much about the drugs and the alcohol. Like, I've actually managed to put that stuff down. You know, like, it says, I'll show you somewhere in the book after the meeting. I can't remember where it's at, but it says basically, you know,
It takes time to build trust again.
yeah, like he read the promises at the beginning. Right?
Is that like a Bible or recovery?
Alcoholics Anonymous.
This is the big book about Austin.
No, I didn't know.
No, yeah, it's a fair question.
It's part of the promises that our families will forgive us, and part of my problem in the past when I tried getting sober is I wanted them to forgive me on my terms. I wanted them to forgive me on as fast as I wanted them to. Like, I wanted to get that trust within my first 30 days. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm 30 days sober. I wanted to get things, you know, I wanted them to trust me, but it doesn't work that way. My sponsor told me that it's we're the ones who hurt them. So as long as it takes for them to heal from that, to believe and trust us again, that's we have nothing to do with that. We can just keep doing the next right thing. And those things, that's part of the promises of AA, is that as long as we stay sober and keep doing those things, that our families will forgive us and we'll gain that trust back, and our relationships will get better and our lives will stay better.
it just sounds like it's doing it a lot for a lot more people than doing it for yourself. It's the way I'm hearing it. That you're worried, you know, that you're trying to do it. You're trying to do it to satisfy something other than just yourself. I mean, yes, other people out there, yeah, you want to make your family happy, but what about you? Like, are you more worried yourself that you'll screw up
No.
from seeing them?
I'm just saying I'm more worried about that than I am about getting high. I'm not really super worried about it. I'm just saying, like, my mind doesn't even really, when I get scared, it doesn't go straight to, oh, am I going to get high today? It's more so like other things, you know what I mean? Like, it used to be the only thing I was worried about. Was
Yeah, like
getting high.
my mind is, I'm gonna get high today and then worry about what's next.
Yeah.
So
Worry about not feeling shitty.
yeah, and getting
I used-
high again is next.
Yeah, that's all I ever worried about.
Yeah, I used to give myself excuses all the time to get high. Like, there's not milk in the fridge. I can't have a bowl of cereal, so I need to get high. Like, I gave myself so many excuses to get high. But I mean, now that
Or I
I've
can't
been,
go to the store
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm not high and I might be in the aisle
Right.
and might get sick.
and now that I'm sober long enough, like, I've had more tragic shit that I in the past I would have definitely got high over happen in the past 7 months than any other time in my career. I mean, my cousin committed suicide. I ended up getting my hand sliced open and cut my tendon in half, and I didn't do painkillers over. And my parents were going through a 23-year divorce. I mean, there's all kinds of things that had happened in my recovery that I could have ran to drugs for, but that and that wouldn't have changed anything. Those things would have still happened, and then I would have just destroyed my life again for nothing. So I went through those things and didn't get high over it, and I have my recovery today. Things are still getting better, and those are all other things that are happening, and regardless, those are inevitable things that will keep happening. You know, we're gonna keep getting pain, things are gonna happen to us, but getting high is not gonna make it easier. It's like that whole switch in your brain, repairing that neural path, that drugs aren't gonna make it easier. Once you get that in your head, that not if you use, you're just gonna destroy your own life. But if you don't use, you can get through it. It's possible.
If we all stick together as a group,
Right.
you know, it's a we thing, it's not an I thing, this is a we thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
That's true too. So you guys are catching on. You have something you want to say?
I remember before I made the decision to try a different way of life because I didn't know how to live. And I hated life, and I just wanted to be happy. And whenever I went to treatment in 2009, and we had family week, third week, I remember sitting there telling my mother, telling her my biggest fear in life was that I would never be happy with one substance or another in my body, and sitting there and watching her cry. And it was just so overwhelming to think, because I couldn't grasp the thought of, you know, I just have to take it a day at a time. I don't have to stay sober the rest of my life. I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't have to worry about staying sober next week. I just have to worry about staying sober today. And once I could grasp that, it was a little bit more manageable. It wasn't so overwhelming. You know, you never have to be back in here again if you don't want to. You know, and the solution's out there. The solution for me is having that spiritual connection where, you know, the fellowship's amazing. That's what, you know, it's like a second family. I look forward to going to meetings. At first, I hated going to meetings. I hate speaking in front of people, but, you know, for me, after I continued to go to meetings on a regular basis and started to remember people's faces and names, and they started to remember mine, like, I started building relationships and connections. And, you know, before I knew it, it's like every day of the week I have something to look forward to. You know, I do work after work. You know, Monday nights I come here. You know, I get to give back to what was given to me freely. And I remember sitting back in treatment in 2009 and thinking, you know, those people have what I want, but how do I get that? I want to be them one day. And, you know, that's amazing to me. Like, I wish I could grab you and just show you a day of how I do it. It's nothing special. It's nothing that's not manageable. You know, some days are harder than others, but, you know, that misery and living hell, suicidal thoughts, everything I'd lost, you know, that it just gets better. You just have to stay sober, get a sponsor, do the steps, you know, go to your meetings.
Not get too complacent.
Absolutely, and you know, it's like I said, every day's a struggle. Last weekend I was feeling restless, irritable, and discontent. I'm talking to my sponsor like, I'm feeling this way. What the fuck am I doing? What is it? I just started a new job. Is it the job? You know, is it that I just came up on 6 months and this is the longest I've ever had sober since I was 13? What is it? You know, and I after thinking about it for a couple of days, it was like, starting this new job, I slacked on my morning meetings. You know, every day for 5 months straight, I'd go to a 7 a.m. meeting, and you know, I'm beating myself up over it. And you know, my routines changed a little bit. And you know, what power, what choice do I have today to do something about it? I don't have to go to a 7 a.m. meeting. There's meetings 24/7 down here.
Right.
You know, meet some new people, reach out. You know, let them love me while I can love them back. And you know, I didn't use, I was feeling a little funky, but you know, that's okay. It's okay not to, you know. My biggest thing whenever I first got down here was thinking, I'm the only one who's uncomfortable in my own skin. Why am I so different? That's not true at all. I guarantee damn near 99% of people in here are uncomfortable in their own skin. You know? It took me to getting more comfortable being uncomfortable in my own skin and realizing, you know, it's okay. I don't have to know my shit.
Right.
I don't even have to fake it till I make it. I have to be okay with where I'm at today. You know, and that takes time, but you know, it's possible. You know, if 4 guys up here can do it, you know, it's possible for anybody to. That's all I got.
How many of you guys are going to Palm Partners Rehab after this?
What?
Palm Partners Rehab. If you go there, you have to talk with your therapist and sign some paper. And get, what is it, phase 3? You can go outside meetings?
Yeah. It lasts like 2 weeks.
Somebody told me they wake you up at 6 a.m. every morning.
I don't know.
You gotta leave and be on the vans, and you gotta be here at like 8:39 maybe, but like